Malachi in Ohio, and you are on the air on Truth Wanted. Malachi, what's up?
Hey, Dan. Hey, guys. Love the show. I love that you guys are talking about Alex Jones. I'm also from a very conservative Christian right-wing Bible believing family, and my
with a name like Malachi? Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, my brother's name is Hezekiah. So.
No.
There.
So yeah, but basically, we always went to these air quote non-denominational churches, and they were the only ones that had the truth and all the literal Bible believing and stuff. And anyways, so obviously I'm atheist now. My family still believes all this shit and everything. And what I can't seem to understand is how somehow these crazy conspiracies and the stuff from these people like Alex Jones, I don't understand how this information seems to always infiltrate into this alt-right religious group. Like, do they look at these guys like him and Rush Limbaugh and like these guys as like their leaders, or how? Like, because they can't possibly all be listening to him like all at the same time. I mean, how? I just don't understand how this crazy information is disseminating into the organization to where, like people like my parents, like I know my dad doesn't listen to Alex Jones, but he's spouting off this crazy conspiracy, like, oh, China's making the coronavirus because of trade retaliation. It's like, I just maybe because I don't know. It just seems, how are people falling into this?
Yeah, great question.
I just believe
your insight, Jordan, because I want to hear your take.
Well, I mean, as technically a former cult member, I can tell you that groupthink is such a huge part of it. But the biggest part of it for guys like Alex Jones is circumventing any kind of rational thought. He's going to go straight to, that's why he calls everybody pedophiles. That way you don't have to think about what they could have done wrong or what they might be doing wrong. You just get that gut feeling of like, pedophiles are bad. We need to stop pedophiles. And then he reinforces the things you already believe. Like with Christianity, so often they believe that any kind of progressive thought is a direct threat to Christianity. So anybody feeding them those narratives, just like Rush Limbaugh or any of those guys, will allow them to kind of circumvent that logical thought process as well. Because you just feel it, and that guy is telling you the things that you feel are right, and that makes you feel good. So it's a lot easier than you think to start believing in nonsense. You just have to stop allowing in new information. You have to start really rejecting all of that.
I think, Malachi, I think
okay. Like your confirmation bias almost, but on a major level.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
And I think, Malachi, your question kind of gets to the heart of how does the dissemination of this information get out? Because you're saying like your dad doesn't listen to Alex Jones, and your dad doesn't have to listen to Alex Jones in order for Alex Jones's messages to get off. Because as long as the people who are listening to him are making Facebook memes, Facebook is the worst about this stuff. Probably.
Yeah.
And are putting out blogs and putting out these posts. It trickles down in ways that you might not expect. And it's going to be 2 or 3 times away from the primary source. I mean, even Alex Jones stuff, like Jordan was saying, is not original content. He's taking this from other writers and other blog posts and stuff. Again, it's a network that kind of gets put out into the mainstream just little by little. So it's like, yeah, your dad may not listen to Alex Jones, but he might listen to someone who does listen to Alex Jones or even so far removed. Yeah. And that's how this stuff really gets around.
Yeah, 6 degrees of bullshit.
And I guess that's why. And that makes sense. And I guess thinking about it from that perspective is why people in the conservative, Christian or right political spectrum, that's why they're not surprised that people like Alex Jones and the other guy that was running Breitbart, and I guess that's why they're not shocked that they're close to Trump and part of his campaign. Like they probably like that. They probably think that that's reinforcing their values.
We don't think about it this way too often, but Christian people in the field, like they go to their own conferences, they network with their own people. A lot of these big figures in Christianity, you know, when people think about it, they usually think of their local pastor and stuff who's just serving their area. But a lot of bigger players, people who pastors get some of their information from these other congregations and bigger meetings, are getting some of these narratives from some of those places and stuff too. And so like when it's so easy to co-opt a lot of this stuff, because you're already getting it from what they would call trusted sources. And again, it just gets disseminated down and eventually you don't figure out where it's actually coming from. When you do realize where it's coming from, then that raises questions. But if you're just looking at a meme on Facebook, it's not as impactful. You're not going to be as doubtful. So though you should be doubtful of all memes you read on Facebook.
It just makes it like when I have conversations with people that think this stuff, and I'm sure you guys have the same experiences, it's so difficult to communicate and have a conversation, because in their mind, they think that this is just common knowledge. They think that everyone thinks this way. And because I don't think that way, that there's something wrong with me. And it's really hard to try and like have a rational conversation with someone when they already think that you're irrational, because they think, I mean, it's just this extreme polarization of ideas. It's really hard to find a common ground. And ironically, the pastor from when I was like a teenager and just kind of subjected to this like crazy, ultra conservative, literal Bible believing church, he has cancer now. And I recently reconnected with him, just to see how, because he's actually married to his daughter's married to my brother, so now we're like related. And so I wanted to see how he's doing. We're having a conversation with him, and we kind of like reconnected. Well, he's doing going to have some kind of Bible study on the end times, and so it's like it's fascinating to me. Yeah. I want to see if he'll let me just kind of like listen in, because it fascinates me how they continually look for ways to take things that are happening in the world and be like, oh, it's the end times. Oh, the coronavirus. This is God's judgments. And it's just like, it fascinates me like how they keep taking this stuff over and over again.
For sure.
Just recreating the same narrative for the last.
In their defense, there are plagues of locusts going on right now.
I know.
So, it's like.
I did see that.
Yeah.
And
you win some, you lose some.
Holy shit, they're going to jump.
And the earthquakes and stuff. But Malachi,
the way I see it, if the end times does happen, I'm willing to accept that they're right about it. If people start getting raptured, I'm going to be like, hey, fucking whatever, man. You guys win this round. We'll see how this goes in the afterlife.
Absolutely. But Malachi, I think it's actually good that you're actually willing to be like, hey, I want to listen in and see what these conversations are like and what they're talking about. Because if you're ever going to convince somebody's mind, changing their mind rather, like people want to know that they're being heard. And if you're actually having these conversations with them and you're engaging with them, I think the likelihood that they'll change their mind on some of this stuff is going to increase. Whereas if they listen to a guy like me, they never met me. They don't know who I am. I could talk about how their shit's bullshit all day. It doesn't matter. But if you're a friend to somebody, that's going to be more impactful. So I think that's good that you're talking to people about this kind of stuff. And I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah. If I was going to give you any advice about talking to them, if I was going to give you any advice, my advice would be to chip away. You can't confront them on anything big. What you got to do is take something really, really tiny and just chip away at that, because all of those beliefs generally hinge on a house of cards. It's so much stuff that keeps being built up, because as new information comes, it's a lot easier to believe in God whenever it's 1500 and nothing is going on to bother you. And now the more you get, the more it's like, oh, germs are real. Damn it. We got to add that into our God. You get 5G, and they're so scared of that shit that it must be a conspiracy theory, but you got to add that in there. And all of this stuff kind of builds up to the point where if you just start chipping away, eventually it'll all fall.
Malachi, you had something you wanted. You had something you wanted to say, and then I'll go ahead and let's move on to the next call after this.
Yeah, the Atheist Experience and all of the ACA shows, I've kind of learned just from watching those shows that it's not really about winning that one conversation is like, oh yeah, I won that one. It's like you said, it's more about chipping away or just asking questions that they're going to think about later, and or maybe other people that are listening to the conversation. And that's
absolutely.
To me, it's more about just asking questions. So
absolutely,
like,
Malachi.
Think about what I said.
That's great.
Yeah, when I'm talking to somebody,
but yeah.
Yeah, when I'm talking to somebody on this show, my expectation is not by the end of this conversation they're going to completely flip their views. My expectation is, they're at least hearing something that maybe they haven't considered before. And that's about as much as you can do in a single conversation. People approach these conversations and they're like, I'm going to argue the shit out of you and you're going to fucking just rip all that beliefs out of you. And that's just not how humans work. It's just not how we operate. We invest in our beliefs and we develop identities for it. But we got like a full queue of callers now. So thanks, Malachi, for calling in.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you.